Welcome back. Today we'll extend our to-do list app by adding the ability to edit tasks and store them locally on the device using async storage to make sure our tasks stay safe even if we close our app. We use async storage library. We also introduce the useEffect hook. What is useEffect hook? And we will discuss later. But first, let's install async storage. So I'll go to your browser and just simply type install and something like async storage react native and go to the first page and just simply copy that first command, come back to our code editor and just simply paste our command. Now we install the async storage library in our project. So let's run our code again. Okay, just do a reload and our emulator is running perfect. So in the last video we make only two functions just for add a task and remove task. So in today's video what we are going to do, first we will make one function to edit the task. Like we already added one task and we want to edit that task, so we will give the ability to edit the task, and the second one is to save the task. Whenever we added a new task, it will get stored locally in our phone, and when we reopen our app, and that task will get load automatically. Okay, so for this we use async storage. First let's make a function to load the task. For this we use a useEffect hook. So first let's talk about what is useEffect. useEffect is a hook which runs code when your component first load or get update. Okay, so let's check how we can make this. First I want to use useEffect to automatically get import. So we will and inside of our useEffect we can call a function. We will make this function later, but first let's give it here, load task, and then okay. So what is this? This is a useEffect hook. When we open our app, so this function, we till now we didn't define this function, but later we will define. So whatever the function we are giving inside of this useEffect will run first when that screen get load. I hope you get it. Here just give it like this. What is this? Basically in this array we can give some variables name, and this is basically work as a condition. Whenever the value of this variable which is inside of this array will get changed, that will call this function. But for now we don't want to give this because we want to load the task only once when the app load, so we are leaving it for now. So let's make this function. This is const load task, and then sorry, not like this. Here let's make a variable stored. Async storage have a method which is dot get item, and here we need to pass a object name, sorry, tasks. What does it basically do? We call async storage dot get item. Get item is a method of async storage. It will give us all the value which is inside of this task object. Basically async storage stored all our tasks just like a object in our local mobile phone. After getting all the items, we make a condition if stored task not equal to something like null. So what we need to do now, set data to json.phase first store task, or just not space here. What we do now, after getting the item, if we got some item in the store task, but it's not compulsory that we get the item every time. Like if you open the app first time, we don't have any task, so it will basically ignore this. And but what if we got a value, so it will set the data to the stored task. Here we are converting that stored task like a JSON format. First we will convert that stored task into a JSON format, and then we will put inside the set data, which will render by the flat list. So let's start from starting what we are doing. First we use useEffect. First we import the useEffect from React, and then we make a useEffect and give it a function named store task. This function will basically take all the tasks which is stored in async storage. Okay, so I hope this is clear. So let's move on to our second function, which is a save task. Like, so whenever we are adding a new task, it also have to store in async storage. So for that I just make a one function const save task, and then here what we need to do is async storage dot set item. Remember one thing, in the load task we are getting the item, and in the save task we are setting the item. Okay, so what we need to set, which is tasks, basically this one. So when we set this as a task and we will open our app, so it will load the same thing. So we will get the data which is already stored, and so we give it as a name what we want to call this object, which is a task, and what we want to put. So here I want to give JSON dot stringify. I want to put it as a string, and it is compulsory to give it as a string. So I put a JSON dot stringify, which is a task and tasks, and here I will give a task, a parameter tasks. We will give the task when we call this function. So let's see what we are doing in save task. When we are calling the save task, like every time when we are adding or deleting the task, so we call this save task function. What does it will basically do? It will take the data, like what is the updated data, basically this one, and it will put in the task to the async storage. Got it? So what happened just now, as we save our code, we got an error with saying render error and unexpected character O, just because this function we are using is not a asynchronous function, and async storage always accept a asynchronous function. Async function means that function will run in our different thread and will not affect the other functions. So let's make this asynchronous Synix, and then where we are taking the data and where we are putting or taking the data, we need to say await. So it will wait till async storage will not get that value. It does not mean it's empty or we got some value, basically we get something, so it will wait. So now we have asynchronous function. Let's save this, and now we don't have any error. Great. So let's save that. When we will call this function, that will also throw the same thing. So make this also async, and then await. Let's make this in a try and catch block. So if we got any error, so we can catch. Sorry. So what we do now, we make a try and catch block. Basically it's try to set the item to the task in async storage, but if it is not able to set that task, so it gets some error. So it will comes on the catch block and it will log the fail to save task. So in short, what is try and catch? Try to run this block. If it's successfully executed, then do nothing. But if you get some error while executing this, then do this one. That's it. This is all we have in try and catch. Same do here, because most probably we will get here also. So this is all will comes catch, and then in the catch just log this also, log. So failed it to load task. Okay, great. Now till now we make a two function, for save and one is for load. For save task also we need to give it in a useEffect. So useEffect, and in our arrow just save tasks. And most important, in the save task we pass a parameter, so we need to give that parameter which is a data, capital data. And here just in a array just give the data. So when we are creating that load task, then I told you one thing, whichever the variable which is inside of this array, whenever this value get changed, that will call this useEffect, right? So that is why I give that variable inside of this array. So what happened, if you add some task, this data get changed, so it will call this useEffect and it will save the data. Then you will delete some task, then also the data get changed, right? So it will call the useEffect and it will save the data, right? I hope that makes sense and you are able to get it, why we are putting the data inside of this array. So now we have successfully made it the load task and save task function. So let's move forward to our next code, which is our edit task, which will edit the tasks. Okay, so for that first we need to make the button, like button we do for edit, sorry, not that one, view. We will put both in a view, and then touchable opacity. Now adding the text for this edit task and delete is not like a professional look, right? So let's add some vector icons. How we can add the vector icons, let's see. So let's come and then just type install React native vector icons, and come to this page. And copy this code, just come here and then let's install. Now we install our icons. Now what is just basically icons? Instead of writing that delete text and then edit text, we will put icons for the edit, for professional look. So first we need to import the vector icons. So let's import material icon from React Native icons / metallic icons. We import a metallical icon from React Native vector icons. Now we can use icon in our project. Instead of using that text, just give an icon metallical icon, put the name to delete, and we want another one for edit, and metallical icon, name should be edit. Here we can define the size also. According to our project we can edit the size. Oh, let it update and just add a task, and let's see, we have a dustbin which basically said delete, and we have a pencil icon for edit. So let's remove that style because we don't want this black color. We put both icons into a view just because we want to make it in a row of. So let's do this, styles dot icon container, and let's make this design. Delete this, we don't want this anymore. So I want a flex direction, should be a row. Now both are in a row, and just give a gap little bit to 20 something. Oh no, we have a lot, just say 10 is enough. So we already have that delete function. Now we want to make the edit. So for that, what we are going to do, when the user will click on the edit icon, we will take that item name, like I have a task name hello, and then I want to edit it. When I click the edit button, it will take the hello words ID. Like basically for the ID we are giving that combination of date and time. So we will take that ID and we will map through the data we have like already in the flat list. We will match the ID, current item ID, to that edit item ID. Where we find that item, we will update that value to the currently given value. So let's see how we can make this. So let's press make a function on now we have a function handle edit task. What we are basically going to do, when the user will click on this button, so here, so we will make a condition in the add task that currently user is it in a edit mode or want to add a new task. For this we need to track. For tracking we make another use state which is edit mode comma set edit mode is equal to use state. By default we will put it as a false because when the user will open the app, defaultly user is on the add task mode, so we will put the false. Here is a mode, and we will make another one const something like edit item ID. This use state is basically for which item we want to edit, so we will store on this one. Set edit ID is equal to use state. We put it as a null. So we create two use state. One is for to track the user, like user is on the edit mode or user want to add a new task. For this we introduce this new use state, and this use state is basically for which item user want to edit. We will store on this item, on this use state. So let's make this. So when user will click on the edit icon, what we will basically do, we will say set edit mode to true, and we want to take the item ID when user want to edit. So let's pass the ID item.id. Behalf of that id we will update and pass the title also, sorry, title. No, no. Now let's set that edit id to the current id we want to edit. So set edit id to the current id. We didn't pass the parameter, so I want to add a item id comma title. So here I want to put item id, and one more thing is to set task to title. Let me explain what we do here. Let me explain what we did here. First, we make a function for edit task, and in the edit task we pass two parameter. First is item.edit and the second one item.title, and the function we want to put in a arrow function, otherwise it will start throw error. Okay, now then why we are taking that id or title? Because behalf of that id we will check which item we want to edit, and the title we take because when we will click on the edit item, that item will come inside of this add task and we can edit and then press the submit to edit it. I hope now you will get it why we'll take an item and id. So now let's update the handle add task function to when user is on the edit mode, then edit that item, or if user want to add the task, then add it. For that we need to update our condition if that condition is true, and then okay, so now let's update our add task. Let's add another if condition, if edit item and edit mode, then do const new data. So we did the modification in our handle add task function. What we do now, first we are checking the condition that we don't want that empty text into our task. So after checking this, we are checking one condition, that if the user is in the edit mode and we have some item for edit, just basically the both condition is true, then we will execute this function, this thing. And now what we are doing here, we already know what the map is doing. So we create one new variable, new data, and we map through the data which we have for the flat list, and we track the each item, and we are checking one condition, that if item.id, current item id, if is equal to that given id for the edit, so then return what we are returning, that the previous all the value which is in the item, and we added another one is title, which is task. What we do, we already know what is the mean of this three dot is. We copying all the previous data which is inside of this item. So we copy the data which is inside the item, and then in the same object which is a current item, we change the title to the current task which is in the text input. Okay, and we return this as a object. I hope now it's clear. And after completing that condition, So the item after getting update will come on this new data, and then we will set the data to the new data, and we will set edit id to null and edit mode to false. So let's try this. I type hello, then I press edit. Now I want to edit this. I put edit. See, whichever the value which is there, it comes here. And now I make something like capital H hello and then word, and I press submit. Now this value get updated. Okay, one thing, we need to reset that task also. So let's reset this and let's save this, and now let's try again. We press click edit mode. Now we are in edit mode, and I type only hello and I press submit. And now our edit function is also working. Just only one thing we need to do is, I want when we click on this edit button, the text which is in the submit, it's become update, and when after update this, I press update and it will become submit. This is very easy. We know like what is ternary operation. So just come here, and here just we need to use the ternary operation to set. If we are in edit mode, if we are in edit mode, then render update, otherwise render submit. Okay, we already know like what is ternary operation. If this value is true, it means we are in edit mode, which is currently false. When we click this, it becomes true, right? So if it is true, it means we are in edit mode. Then change the text to update, otherwise put it to submit. So let's test this again. I press the edit mode and it become update. Hello world 1, and I press update, it becomes submit. Great job, guys. So today we learn how to use useEffect, how to use async storage to store values in locally, and the third thing is how to use vector icons in our project. I hope you learned something new, and now you can use useEffect and then vector icons and async storage in our application. So that's it for today's, and I will see you in the next one.